With Tyler Reddick finally finding victory lane at Michigan, Brian and I are in to discuss what went right, what went wrong, how come a Marty Monday didn't become a Marty Monday. We'll talk how we did on DraftKings at the betting window and more, and then we'll turn our attention to the Coke Zero 400 as we go to Daytona, baby. We'll talk all things super speedway, ways to blow your money, ways to not get invested, all of that and more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, your guy finally did it. He got
Hallelujah.
to victory. It almost looked like he didn't. I was like,
oh.
But then he ended up getting the job done. Congrats to your bridesmaid. How does it feel to have hit a winner and have it be your guy?
Well, I'll just say it feels so good. I'm day drinking, folks, with a Monster Beast as the celebration continues. Cashing not only a Tyler Reddick outright ticket, but also his season win total over finally after numerous weeks of thinking it was going to get there and it not. And it just solidified us talking up his championship future, which, by the way, could have been had at 14-1, just ahead of the green flag at Michigan as well. So,
still? Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah. I don't think there's any world where he's not the championship favorite going into the playoffs, just seeing how diverse his skill level has been this year. And the fact that even with one win, he was so far up the regular season championship standings. And now he's got, barring catastrophe for the 45 team, like he's going to win the regular season championship, go into the playoffs as the number one seed with all of those extra points, and everybody's effed.
And I know you love Tyler Reddick. Like, obviously, we saw the potential there. But for him to win the regular season, especially after what we saw from Larson at points this year, after we saw from Denny at points this year, knowing that he had to perform well at these final few tracks to really make a jump. And it's been a really, really impressive season. From 23-11, I guess, as a whole, Jordan, of course, shows up. And when Jordan's there to start the race, they win the race. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I will say too, just as we stick with Michigan, how many times are we going to allow Kyle Larson to make boneheaded decisions at portions of the race that it's not called for and cause other people's days to be ruined? I mean, Bubba Wallace was a top 5 car and was a legit race-winning contender before that entire incident took place, with Larson getting way too aggressive at way too early of a part of the race. And we just poo-poo it as like, oh, he's the best driver in the sport, which he still is. But like, at what point is he no different than Carson Hocevar or Corey LaJoie, just with a better ceiling?
Yeah, like obviously he's arguably, if not definitively, the best. But if his name was Ross Chastain or Bubba Wallace, I think the conversation around some of the things he does every week, would definitely change. I will say, having that much talent and being able to kind of, like, it's like in the NFL when you have like a super strong arm, like, you shouldn't throw the ball into coverage, but like you see a window and you trust yourself and you're just going to see what you can do. And sometimes it ends in a pick six and your team loses the game and you have to go stand at the podium and explain why it happened. But it was a little frustrating. It was a frustrating day for anyone backing Denny Hamlin, who was still able to put it in the top 10 despite all the stuff that he had to deal with in the beginning of.
Amazing.
I guess I don't even know, like, it wasn't technically the beginning of the race because it was Monday, but it was just like seeing him back in traffic, just like squirrely, like he was skating on ice. Like, it's not fun when you're holding a top 5 ticket and he still almost gets there, but never really felt like he had a chance.
Yeah, I mean, especially realizing after listening to Actions Detrimental this morning, and then they had kind of mentioned it as we got back green yesterday, but the entire undercarriage of Denny's car was basically like 70% ruined, and they could only repair it to, maybe 70 to 80% to the good. And the fact that he was able to just survive his way into a top 10 is miraculous.
Yeah. I mean, that shows his skill too, right? Like he's
Oh, yeah.
somebody that's able to push and be there when it matters most. Speaking of surviving, Corey LaJoie ended up upside down. And it was in the Xfinity race too, a car flipped over, right? If I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it
Like,
was Kyle Sieg. I
one
don't
of the Siegs, I believe.
recall very.
But yeah, it's kind of wild that both races had a car end up upside down when it's not supposed to do that. All the stuff they put in place to kind of add vents and other stuff to really prevent that. But
Yep.
it's not like he got pushed around. Like obviously he got spun, but it's a Corey LaJoie.
Wait a second.
60% of it's on him.
So when I watched the replay,
Yeah.
it's my opinion that Corey LaJoie was upset at Noah Gragson for blocking him off of corners because he ran into him a couple of times with Gragson just getting in his way. But when you rewatch the replay of the moments just before LaJoie spins, to me, it looks like LaJoie tries to correct the car to the right into Gragson's left rear and then probably decides better of it and realizes, well, shit, I'm going to get penalized if I left rear this guy and spin him out, and then tries to correct the opposite direction. And that's why the wreck happened.
Yeah.
Because I don't see any movement out of Gragson coming down to prevent LaJoie from getting there.
Yeah, when you say Noah Gragson and Corey LaJoie, I mean, all of that makes sense.
Oh, exactly.
Bumping and bruising and, being annoyed at each other. And LaJoie's probably just generally upset because he's not going to have a cup ride in 2025. So I could see that. But yeah, it was pretty wild to see him literally like flip upside down and flip it back. Like he's playing some Tony Hawk Pro Skater and like doing one of the specials.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's look at the betting card because despite like feeling like we were on a lot of the right things, I think ultimately we ended up on the wrong bets, mostly because the books were really giving us a shaft this week with the odds. Like the numbers were just disgusting. So let me present my screen.
Yeah, I will say I was like DMing and chatting with other people for a while prior to the race. The post-practice odds this week were extremely tight, and there wasn't much out there that I was excited to bet. I mean, you were getting short numbers on guys that really had no business being placed where they were, and then longer number. All of the value was basically cooked out of the market, in my opinion, after practice.
And we were talking late on Saturday night while we were working in our newsletter, which, by the way, if you're not subscribed to that, aoppodcast.substack.com, aoppodcast.substack.com. Put that out every race day, extra bets, extra DraftKings thoughts, links to all the episodes, full betting card, all that stuff. But we sit there on Saturday night and try and like cobble together our final bets, make sure we're not missing anything in market, any values, any of that. And like 40, 50, 60% of the books didn't have basically anything but outrights. So we're scrounging. And then the ones that did have lines, they were just pretty terrible. So I wish I had gone a little heavier on my Ty Gibbs bags. Obviously had the outright, thought he maybe could get there, got the top 10. The Denny top 5, I still think was a really good bet. And if his undercarriage isn't all destroyed, then it's probably a good bet. Bubba top 10, also a good bet.
He almost got there.
Yeah.
Denny still.
Yeah. Byron looked Byron-like. It was wild to see.
He was really good.
I feel like for the most part, Gibbs was a good number. Byron was a good number. I bet Hamlin again. I bet Bubba again. Obviously got there with Gibbs at top 10. And the Eric Jones at 125. He was never really a contender. But at 125, when you're putting 20 cents on it, like it's fine. It's almost a lottery ticket play. There was a lot of smart people who ended up wanting some sort of Eric Jones exposure, so that tells me all I need to know that was probably trending in the right direction. And honestly, with him, I'm much more of a fan of taking the longer shots, the top manufacturer that win the race, that kind of stuff, as opposed to like a top 10 or a matchup, just because he's so up and down. You had KFB, who also looked pretty good. Was actually, I had Suarez against him in a matchup at like plus money, and I was feeling really good about the way Suarez was running. And of course, KFB finishes like 2 spots in front of him, despite Suarez finishing in the top 10. So frustrating. Martin Truex looked like a rocket ship until he was out of the race. Martin Truex, like, you keep lining up to bet this guy. The books keep giving you long numbers, and I'm just like he's not able
It
to
was
put a
the
full
right
race
call
together.
though. Like he had the best car, and
He had a great car.
The
But when things
problem,
get to stage 3,
I was just gonna say the problem with Truex though, and you'll hear Chris Wormy talk about this all the time during his pre-race poll, is that when he gets stuck in traffic, for the most part, he just doesn't seem able to get through the traffic as good as other top tier drivers like a Christopher Bell does on a regular basis, or Denny Hamlin, or Tyler Reddick this year, or even Bubba Wallace this week. Like he just has issues in that aspect, and maybe that, like, this year it's exacerbated by the fact that he's retiring, and so he's not as aggressive. Like,
no. I don't know. I think James Small isn't very good at his job. I think Truex has put himself in position a lot, and the crew chief has kind of let him down. But I'm not a NASCAR expert by any means from a pure racing standpoint, so maybe I'm wrong. But it's been a frustrating season for him too, for sure, because there's been opportunities to have wins and have strong finishes, and one reason or another he's out of the race, running out of gas, having accidents, whatever the case may be. Buescher top Ford, I think, was a good bet. I think he was the second Ford in the top 10.
Another part of the damn Kyle Larson wreck that had he not been there, he's probably going to finish as the top Ford, because he looked to be the strongest out of that camp from the get. And I don't think it was close.
And then Chastain obviously was much better than Alex Bowman, and
even that got close to not cashing because of the spin that he had.
Spin out. So he ended up being fine. Was fine. You had a bunch of Hamlin top 5 with me. Like I said, I still think it's a good bet. Wallace a good bet. And then Tyler Reddick, 10-1, gets it done.
That's right, baby.
So congrats to you, having a strong finish to the season. Obviously my frustrating week got me back into the red a little bit, so I gotta finish strong and get back into that green. But yeah, you're crushing, having a really good season. So it's good to see. Speaking of good to see, let's hop over and talk DraftKings, because Brian, things have been going really well over there. I think playing cash has obviously helped me kind of build on top of what we do in terms of tournament play every week, and I think building the little strategy. But this was one of our better GPP lineups. It finished 127 out of almost 4,000 people, so that's pretty good. Blaney was, I think, better than his 18th finish.
Well,
and I think
he was in line for like close to a top 5 run until him and Elliott got it, made contact there on that last lap. So
yeah, did we ever find out what happened there? Because I know there was some scuttlebutt about what those two.
So they got into each other. So Elliott was coming up the track, and it looked like Blaney was coming down the track, and they're probably fighting for a spot. Which, when you're up inside the top 10, top 8, like, those positions matter in the grand scheme of things. For Elliott's purpose, fighting for the regular season championship, and for Blaney, just trying to pick up spots as we head to the playoffs.
Yeah. Obviously, having Reddick did not suck. Christopher Buescher moved forward, had a nice race. Tyrone Gibbs, awesome race. Eric Jones, honestly, from a DraftKings perspective, was fine. Like, he wasn't mind blowing, but 6,700, starting 28th. It was easy to see. And the dinger was fine.
Until he was a part of the damn Kyle Larson wreck, I believe. So,
yeah. It's amazing how many of the guys that we talk about that were having a good day until they weren't were involved in scuttlebutt there.
Yeah.
All right. This was a lineup I put together and I wish I had entered it into some other tournaments because they ended up being really strong. So I had the Keselowski Buescher double. I did Truex, who at one point was looking awesome and then obviously fell apart. Ty Gibbs, Austin Cindric, who sucked ass, and Noah Gragson ended up being really solid.
Cindric?
Huh?
Why would you play Austin Cindric?
That was a win the race special. I needed some salary savings, and it looked pretty decent in his model. And I know, there's two places, and I don't know. I got a little over my skis. And then this is one of our other lineups we built. Byron ended up being really strong. There was no like one guy who was like the guy, obviously, to have. Like having Gibbs was great, having Reddick was great, but Byron was really strong. Even Ricky Stenhouse got a 13th place after starting 30th, so that's really nice. I think LaJoy was in line for a strong day.
Yeah, I think
started.
I was just going to say, I feel like Corey was probably going to be a 20-ish place car, which would have been huge for 5,300.
Yeah, I think 18 to 22 is very realistic for his, and given he started 31st at sub 10%, I'm very happy with that. I think Bowman was not a great call. I never felt like he was a strong car at any point of the race.
No, he was definitely very underwhelming out of that HMS camp, who had tremendous speed by all three top guys.
Yeah, exactly. Larson looked amazing until he didn't, obviously. Elliott was there until the scuttlebutt with Ryan Blaney, and then obviously Byron was right in the conversation, finished second. And then this other lineup, obviously, when Larson crashes halfway through the race, it sucks. Hamlin having the issues he did sucked. Truex, like this lineup has so much potential. And then if Gibbs, obviously, and LaJoy, so there was a lot of potential there. Just there was too many different things.
Yeah, and I think to our point when we recorded on Saturday, laps led. Again, I think the top laps leader was probably Kyle Larson or something at 41. There wasn't one guy who led the vast majority of the race. There was so many different leaders in this event that it really played out like a super speedway, essentially, where you needed the placement differential just as much as you needed the guy who won the race or was the dominator.
Yep, and that's what we'll talk about when we get together. So as a reminder, Daytona is on Saturday this week. So Brian and I will record Friday. It'll be in your feed Saturday morning. So make sure
one caveat, that is if the rain doesn't get us.
Yeah. Of course. Why would NASCAR go to a place where there's no rain? Like they simply choose every track based on the weather pattern. I swear it's NASCAR. What are we going to do with you? So yeah,
I don't know if you saw somebody tweeted yesterday and they said when NASCAR releases the 2025 official schedule, they should post wrong dates to mess with Mother Nature, so that way her schedule of rain actually misses the real weekends of racing.
Or just plan on like Wednesday being qualifying and Thursday being the race. That way we can actually race on Saturday. So Brian and I will be here Friday night to record, hopefully for a Saturday race, assuming qualifying and all that stuff's in place, which I believe it will be, even if they have to set it by metrics and stuff, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really going to matter much anyway. So
yeah, so subscribe. I think it's a fun week to get involved on DraftKings, especially in like some of the tournaments. Take some long shots, and see if you can't cobble together a winning lineup.
It's BJ the Cloud week, folks.
The betting card will be light, but that's okay. We don't need to get heavily invested. Maybe take a few long shot outrights, maybe a top manufacturer, but make sure you're getting paid out this week if you're betting the race, because it's a super speedway race. Carnage is going to happen over and over and over again. So don't max bet your favorite driver. just because they're racing at Daytona. Any other Michigan thoughts, Brian, before we move the party ahead and talk some Coke Zero 400?
NASCAR officiating is still one of the worst of all sports. How do you throw a caution immediately when Martin Truex Jr. slams the wall and yet is still rolling at probably minimum speed, but they waited 12 seconds for Corey LaJoie to finally get tipped on his roof to throw that yellow? How the hell does that make any sense?
Because it was towards the end of the race, they wanted to bunch up the field and have an exciting finish.
It's complete bullshit. Oh yeah, I even forgot to mention the Alex Bowman. When we were coming to the green white restart, Bowman slams the wall in the pack right off the bat. They wait to throw the caution until the wreck actually happens behind him. I don't understand it. Like, they need to get more consistent with this stuff and get more into the idea that it doesn't matter what portion of the race we're in. If it's a yellow, throw the yellow. If it's not,
they want to bunch the pack up at the end for an exciting finish. That's all they care about. That's what they love their overtime rules.
I mean, I see that, and
you're trying to apply facts and logic to something that doesn't have logic.
I mean, but the problem is that you have drivers and fans. We're all together on this same idea here. So how does NASCAR not see that and realize we have an issue that needs to be addressed?
Because they want an exciting finish, which we keep getting over and over and over again. Even if it's shenanigans by Austin Dillon, if it's Atlanta where Daniel Suarez wins by a fraction of a quarter of a centimeter of an inch, like that's what they want.
A good explanation.
So
yeah, I hear it, and I've been the loudest over the last week plus trying to explain to people that sports are entertainment. Yes, it's a competition, but in the grand scheme of things, like, sports are entertainment. They don't exist without the fans watching it. So
yeah,
I get that point, but there has to be some integrity behind the calls.
They may lose a couple diehards along the way, but unfortunately for us, or fortunately for them, the people that are diehard fans that really care about it are probably going to watch the race either way. It's like the NFL, man. They don't actually want to fix the rules. They want to get people talking about it. They know the people that bet and watch and buy tickets and jerseys and all that stuff are going to watch every week, and they're trying to get the other people so they can have a few things, build up the discussions, get a few more eyes on the TV. That's all they care about. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to be good for us. But yes, I understand the frustration for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, like, holding a Reddick ticket, I was hoping that it didn't come out. But, at the same time, I had outright tickets on everybody that was running inside, like, the top 6 at that moment. So I really didn't care who won the race.
La-di-da. Brian's just the freaking...
But still, like...
It was so I was like, oh, here it comes, because I knew I was gonna tweet out, but I didn't want to ruin your mojo. I was like, how does Reddick lose this race? Because I felt like there was a way where he was gonna get like second or third, but I also had a Ty Gibbs ticket that I was rooting for. I knew as soon as they tweeted that I would ruin my own mojo, so it was a little selfish on my part. But I was like,
well,
it sure feels like something's gonna happen, and he's gonna get second or third again.
I actually did it to myself because I'm in the Win the Race Discord. If you're not subscribed to wintherace.info, our buddy Ryan Stevens, you're missing out. Like, the data and the content is top notch, and it really helps you make more educated bets and play DFS better. But in the Discord, I said with about 20 to go, I wrote a comment: who is bringing out the yellow with about 5 laps remaining? You just know it's coming. We know that, like you said, it's almost like it's scripted by NASCAR, that something is going to happen. They have a button. They have a chaos button that they push instead of the easy Staples button.
Buffalo Wild Wings commercials where they have the thing behind the bar and it forces the game to go to overtime.
Yeah. So whatever.
All right. Go ahead.
The best car won in the end. So that's good.
Which honestly I don't feel like has been the case, especially when there's late race carnage.
Very true. Yeah.
The best car ends up getting booted in third or farther back.
Yep.
And I've had a few tickets that have gone and gotten ripped up and torched because of that. Let's talk Coke 0400. NASCAR goes back to Daytona. The odds are going to be disgusting at the top and at the middle and at the bottom, as the books are just like, you guys figure it out. We're going to smush them all together and throw stuff against the wall. Hamlin, Buescher, Keselowski, Blaney, Logano, Elliott, Reddick, Busch, Byron, Bubba, Larson, Bowman. That's your inside 20-1. It's a massive pile of humanity. The one thing I will say is shop your lines wherever you have
Yes.
access to. The books don't have a strong consensus, so if you feel really good, go to FanDuel, say, oh, I like a 13 or a 15 better than a 10 or a 12. Shop it. Like Logano's 12 here, he's 15 over here. If you're gonna bet this wacky race, get your best number.
Yeah, and as Kyle said it best, like wacky race. Perfect example of that. I have the last 4 winners for you, or the last 5 winners since we've gone to the next gen car. Listen to this list of names at Daytona: Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chris Buescher, William Byron. This just goes to show you that regardless of who is where people are starting. Oh, and by the way, the last 4 winners have all started 11th or worse, with 3 of them starting 18th or back. So, like, this is a literal crapshoot. You're playing roulette at this race. Now, obviously, there are guys who are better in this package and just at this racing style than others, and they put themselves in position to win. But clearly, they don't always win. So, guys here at the top, I mean, Logano's 9-1 at Bet365. So if you're looking for like variance in odds, I don't mind looking at that. But I have a hard time getting to anybody inside 20 this week as I've evolved as a NASCAR bettor. Like these guys have no better shot than the guys in the 20 to 30 or 30 to 40 range, in my opinion, to win this race.
You want to hear something crazy? Like this is not a sentence I expected to utter this week, or this year rather. I kind of like Kyle Busch this week.
Oh no! After giving me shit last week for betting 50-1,
dude, I've given you shit for like a month for talking about Kyle Busch. He's gotten more, like, RCR as a whole. Obviously has gotten stronger and more consistent, even with
even Dillon.
And like Austin Dillon obviously did some shenanigans to win the race a couple weeks ago,
but he was the best car.
Yeah, he was the best car that day.
He was
pretty good at Michigan. Kyle Busch was top 5 at Michigan.
Yeah,
they're trending in the right direction. This is a track where he's traditionally done pretty well. Like you said, inside 20-1 just in general is pretty gross. But I think if you can get 15, 16, maybe 18 on KFB, I don't hate it.
Yeah,
like, obviously, if let's put it this way, if you had to bet, if there was 2 names, a 1 and a 2, inside 20-1, if you're like, okay, here's $100 and $50, go bet both of these. Go bet somebody inside 20-1. Who are you betting? Who's the most compelling to you?
So for me this week, it's all about the cut line guys. Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher, and Bubba Wallace are probably my 3 favorite plays this week. If you can find odds that you can stomach at the most unpredictable race. Okay, Bubba Wallace at 20, I'm more than comfortable betting that at a super speedway.
Yeah.
Because people can give him shit all they want, but he is elite in this package at putting himself in position at the end. We've seen it time and time again where he's up inside the top 5, coming to 2 or 3 to go, and just happens to be a part of the big wreck. Like, obviously the luck factor plays a role here, but like I said, as we led into the odds, there are some guys who are just better in this package and this racing style. Bubba Wallace is one of them. So I don't mind getting there. And then Kyle Busch, like you said, he's been fast the last 2 weeks. And I think our buddy iFantasy Race actually pointed out he's been he's the best at like the super speedways this year in terms of total speed ranking, like average running position, all of those metrics. So And then Chris Buescher. He's won at Daytona recently. He needs a win to get into the playoffs. We saw him do this. Was it last year he won this race?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was he won this race last year with the help of his teammate Brad Keselowski. So I think the same scenario could happen where RFK hooks up with the Penske boys because all three Penske guys are locked into the playoffs. Keselowski's locked into the playoffs, and the odd man out right now is Chris Buescher. So I could definitely see a scenario where Ford says, we want to get another car locked in here. And their entire plan for the weekend, obviously, if they have a shot to win, is to win. But if they're in a situation late, is to get Buescher to victory lane.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking it up. Yeah, he won this exact race last year. So good call on that part. Speaking of iFantasy race, they pointed out that Christopher Bell has actually been really getting much better at Daytona. He was fifth at the 500 this year. He won the Daytona Duel. He in the summer race he was 16th, but he got damaged in the last lap of stage 2, which gave Gibbs a bad dump draft and caused a big accident basically. And then the Daytona 500 in 2023, he was third. So he's getting better at super speedways. I don't love some of the numbers, but if you can find him at 20 or better, I don't hate that as we kind of go into the next range.
Yeah, again, like Christopher Bell, I like too, but one more stat or two tiny stats I want to throw out. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you missed this, but in the 5 next-gen Daytona races, there are only 3 cars that have actually finished with a designation of running at finish, and that's Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, and Corey LaJoie. And there's only one driver who actually has lead lap finishes in all 5 Daytona races in the next-gen package, and that's Martin Truex Jr. So, I mean, when you're talking about variance and just chaos, Daytona is it. And so, again, it goes to, regardless of odds, regardless of what the name is, this is anybody's race.
Yeah. And Truex, another guy who was traditionally pretty poor at super speedway races, that there was like a period like when we switched over to the next gen car, he was pretty terrible, but he's actually gotten better of late. So I think he, another guy, if you can get him 20 or better, I don't hate taking a shot.
I mean, his top finish though in the car is 8th. So
yeah,
I just don't think this suits his driving style.
No. Ty Gibbs, 30. It's weird to see because like names that you'd normally want to bet at like 7 all of a sudden are at 30.
Right.
And then guys that you want to bet at 70 are going to be also 30. So it's like kind of breaks your brain a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
I
Austin
will say
Dillon, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Ricky Stenhouse, Will Braxton. They're all in the 30-1 range.
Yeah, that's gross. The other guy that I was kind of interested to see where he dropped at was Chastain. Now, 22, 25, 26 even. I'm not excited about that, but if I'm throwing a dart, I don't mind going that direction one bit.
Yeah. I mean, if we're throwing darts, I'm going to throw my first dart. I'm going to see Daniel Suarez at 50-1. Me and you were talking a little bit before recording about him in general and like the names that he's priced around, the names that are priced in front of him. Chase Briscoe is somebody I'd like to bet here, but I want to see a 5 and not a 3. And to be able to get 50 plus on Suarez at a track where he's not like a super speedway maven by any chance, but he's done pretty good and obviously won Atlanta earlier in the year, which is a super speedway adjacent track. So I think if you're getting 50-1 on a guy who I think can legitimately win this race, I'm going to take it.
Yeah. And so on that, I will officially add Bubba at 20.
I think that's a good number.
I don't advocate for taking him anything under that just because, I mean, I feel like that's the threshold for me is 20 and longer. I'm not touching anybody in single digits or the teens.
And the cool thing is practice and qualifying shouldn't actually change much. So
Yeah, oh yeah.
don't be surprised that if lines just stay up or when they repost, they're basically the same thing. Because as we've seen, as Brian mentioned with the previous winners and where they started, it really doesn't matter. As long as they're on the track with all four wheels, they have a chance to win this race.
Yeah, it means absolutely zero.
So let's talk dart throws as we kind of transition down in here, because I think this is where the fun starts, and I think some of the numbers might move. SVG 55 Hocevar. Let me find that stat that Ryan tweeted out.
Oh, 75 is not a bad number.
No, it's a really good number.
But I feel like he might get. Oh, forget that. He's 150 at Bet
That's the
365.
number.
That's wild.
So, a thing on Suarez. Suarez has been a prolific crashing machine per Ryan at iFantasy Race at big super speedways. But in 4 of the last 7 races on this track type, he's finished in the top 10. So that's a little nugget there for you. Where is the host of our nugget that he posted? Because it was really compelling. It's basically since June, he has like the 7th best.
Yeah, isn't he finishing like 13th or 14th on average?
Yeah. So since June, Daniel Suarez is the 5th best average finish, and then since June, Carson Hocevar has the 6th best average finish. So 2 drivers trending in the right direction of late. Yeah, I'm gonna that Hocevar 150 is interesting. I think this is a week to get into some guys that maybe you wouldn't traditionally bet outright that can actually do it. Austin Hill? No.
I already tried that earlier this year and it didn't he didn't look good. He can't so the pace in that 33 car, he can't keep up with his RCR teammates.
My question to you, does Kyle Busch's number get any shorter than like 16?
I don't see why it would, just because you don't normally see much line movement from qualifying here because we don't get practice. We don't see how the cars ride in traffic or in the pack, and we have to go based on what we saw at the 500, Atlanta, and Talladega on who races well. So I mean, if you like Kyle Busch, just bet it now because it's not going to get longer. I can tell you that it's not getting longer.
Austin Cindric won the 500 in 22, was third.
He's good at drafting tracks,
and then was second the following year. But then the last 4 races, 23rd, 37th, second, 22nd. But in the last year, in the February race where he got 22nd, he was second after stage 2. In the February race 23, he was 5th after stage 2. He's kind of compelling. Just his
but again, I go back to the fact that so because of when this race falls, and we got 2 races left in the regular season. You have all these guys fighting for a playoff spot. I really think you're going to see the manufacturers try to push one of the guys that's on the cut line or looking to get into the playoffs to a victory here. I don't think it's going to be the case where for instance, say if Chris Buescher is riding behind Austin Cindric. Now, it's probably a bad example because Austin Cindric wrecked his teammate Ryan Blaney to win the 500 a couple of years ago. But why wouldn't Ford radio down to both of those teams and tell Austin, allow Buescher to get in front of you and push him to a win to get us another Ford into the playoffs? I don't. We've seen it before where these camps, like they're individual drivers, they race for their teams, but they're also racing for the manufacturer itself. So I wonder if that's really going to play a role if you have a situation like that where they're running 1-2 from different teams.
I don't know. I feel like there's definitely some cross pollination there for sure, but I also think there's times where I have a chance at a win, or I have a chance at, helping my team win. It's hard to say no to that.
Especially like I said, Austin Cindric's a bad example because he basically wrecked his own teammate Blaney, or he told his own teammate, "F you, I'm going for this." So
yeah. I don't love much.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I was just gonna say, I also think this is a week if you find matchups with long money on one side or the other, I think you take a shot on the long money guy just because
you get like better than 2-1 on a matchup, even if you're like just take it.
Yeah, because I feel like
if the driver is better and they're having a good race and shenanigans happen around them, they're out of the race.
Yep.
All of a sudden you're cashing those. So yeah, I'll be looking for those. I'll be interested to see if books actually give those to us. I feel like they've been a lot more stringent about posting those like plus 175, plus 250.
Well, I feel like FanDuel is the most notorious for posting the crazy matchup lines.
Yeah. So, okay, Brian. I think. Like, is there anything else? I guess we could see if manufacturers are up at the speakeasy. See if we can't find any value. So Chase, Kyle Busch, 6-1 on Kyle Busch to win Top Chevy. I don't know. If you bet manufacturer, don't you want to come down here and get like Hocevar at 25 or
I'm not betting single digit manufacturer this week. Okay, in the Chevy market alone, I would rather bet Dylan at 12 than anybody inside single digits, or maybe LaJoy at 20 on the off chance that he finally puts together an entire race at a super speedway and he finishes maybe 5th, and say you have like 3 Fords and a Toyota in front of him, which is definitely within the realm of possibility.
Briscoe at 14, Cindric at 14. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't hate the Cindric call. If you like him to potentially win.
Yeah. 16 isn't bad. 14, 16, something like that.
But again, at this point, we're throwing darts blindfolded.
Yeah. I don't like it. I understand it's not as sexy as 14 or 18 or 20 or something, but Bell at 6, I think, is sort of interesting, especially given how few Toyotas are in the running. But I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. All right. I want to look at something really quick just before we leave. Future bets. Obviously, we have this week at Daytona. We have next week at Darlington, and the playoffs start. A lot of the juice has been squeezed from a lot of these drivers.
Oh, yeah.
Hamlin, Larson, Bell, Reddick, Byron. Byron's, I guess, where we could start the conversation. Is there anyone, Byron, Blaney, Chase, Truex, Logano, Keselowski, Bowman, Gibb, like any one of these guys that you're like, I want to grab some exposure now because I feel like they could either win one of the next races and their number goes, or I just think they have a better than the number suggests chance of making it to Phoenix with a chance to win the championship.
I don't think, outside of Martin Truex Jr., who I'm still high on because he's bringing consistent cars to the track. Outside of him, I don't really see anybody who's as well-rounded that can put together a whole round of racing that is going to put them in like the top 4 of even say that specific round. When put up against the best guys.
Yeah. The 2 names that jump out to me that I think can both make it to Phoenix with a chance and actually win when they get there. I don't hate Logano at 18. He's been kind of around that price most of the year. So if you liked Logano, you probably got exposure to him already, but I still don't hate that. And I think Chastain at 50 is sort of compelling. He's shown that even when he doesn't get the playoff car, He can beat all of the playoff drivers at Phoenix, which he did
True.
last year. Trackhouse has
it-
been much better the past 2 weeks. It's still Trackhouse. It's still terrifying. It's still Watermelon Man doing shenanigans. But
Yep.
I think this is like if you want to take a shot on somebody, like I wouldn't bet it at like 18 or 20 or even 25. But if you tell me I can get 50, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate 50 on Chastain. My only worry though is that we haven't seen Trackhouse for that matter, especially the one team, put together a 3-race streak where we've considered them even contenders inside the top 10 for 3 straight weeks. So that's my worry, especially when we get into the playoffs and we're running at vastly different tracks each round, where you got a road course, a intermediate, and then a short track. Like, can they consistently do that from round to round to get to Phoenix, where we know he'd be strong at? Like, I don't trust that. I would rather just roll over outrights or until we get there, because quite honestly, let's be true here. If Chastain gets to the championship round and he's going up against a Larson, Reddick, and say let's just say Hamlin, Chastain's going to be the long man. He's probably going to be 5.5, 6 to 1 to win the championship, and I would rather bet that and eat the value on the 50 number with him only having to go up against 3 cars, knowing how good he was at Phoenix last year.
Yeah. Like, he's the first one out right now, so he would have to, like, he's not even like really good.
No. That's definitely old, unless they gave Austin Dillon his playoff eligibility back.
Yeah, that's weird because this is
good job, NASCAR.
This is the playoff picture.
Yeah, because I believe as of now, Chastain is a point ahead of Bubba on the cut line.
Okay. Yeah, because Dillon's not in. He's way out. He's minus 261. Maybe they need to update it manually. That doesn't make sense, but
oh my god.
But yeah, anyways, he's flirting with the cut line no matter what you say. So it's not even a lock to make the playoffs, so that's why he's priced the way he is. But considering we bet him at 18, 20, 22 before this, like when the season started.
Yeah.
Now he's 50. And Trackhouse has shown life the last couple weeks. But yeah, no, it's definitely So okay, I just wanted to throw that in. Like I said, Brian and I will be back we'll record Friday after practice and qualifying and everything is in the books. The newsletter will launch into your email inbox Saturday morning, so make sure you subscribe now so you get first crack at that. aoppodcast.substack.com, aoppodcast.substack.com. We'll have picks, we'll have DraftKings thoughts, we'll have our full betting card, all that good stuff. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Congrats to Tyler Reddick on getting the big win. Congrats to Brian for cashing all those tickets.
Hallelujah.
Hopefully you guys were on board with Brian and cashed along with him. We'll talk all things DraftKings when we reunite on Friday night. Until then, have a good rest of your week.